Yeah. Okay, boys and girls, I was talking to you last time about this short story, which is, as I said, really is full of unbelievable, as I said, really action, which is, killing someone, killing your own neighbor for no real reason, except that you don't hate one thing about him or her. Here the story is, this narrator speaker is trying to always say to us, I'm not mad because I killed my neighbor. But really, no matter how he says this, we will not accept it. We will not believe him, and we will not really, forgive him, because you can't kill someone just like that out of the blue. And that's what this man really is, trying to tell us. That's why all the time he's saying, I'm not mad and I'm not, etc., but I'm extremely sensitive and so on. So he wants us to really understand. And this is why I said to you, this short story, did I lose connection? Oh no, somebody
No, we hear you.
Yeah, somebody was, yeah, okay. So I was saying here, this is, as I said, it's a trial-like situation. It's really a very terrible sort of psychoanalytical therapy. It's like therapeutic. He's trying here to really make us forgive him and to understand why he did it. And, we would never, as I say, we would never fully, of course, understand his position. He said that I am extremely sensitive and so on and so forth, but that's not good excuse. That's not enough, and we will not accept that. I will not accept that, because this is not possible. So that's why here all the time, you shall see he's saying to us, look, I'm not mad. Look, I'm saying to you the truth. Look what, etc. Notice here how he said this. He said, let me tell you the story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. You see, so here how he became really over sort of, worked with this idea that he was, he's saying haunted, as if to say he was completely psychologically dominated by the idea of killing his neighbor. Again, why should it come into your brain? He said, the first time came into my brain, the idea crossed my mind that I should kill him, and this is really terrible. Who's sending me? Anyway, I'll see. So that's why here he's saying this, how he, started to decide to kill the man. Object, there was none. I mean, look at this really short, absolutely lovely English here. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. Well, he had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. Look at this lovely shorter sentences. Absolutely short, absolutely lovely, short sentences, exactly like, as I told you before, like the short sentences in Cat in the Rain by Hemingway. This is exactly similar in a way. The wordings here are full of meanings, really. He did not explain, he did not elaborate, he did not really give details, because this is a short story. He has no time for, more and more explanation and elaboration about this, to say the objection, object. Either you can say really here, I say object as a verb or object as a noun. Again, I think both can be possible, So he said, I had really no reason to kill him. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I don't want to kill him for his money. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Allahu Akbar. Okay? So, he said, only because I hate his eye, it was his eye. Again, you can see, the way he speaks, of course, you can see he's really not mad, isn't it? The way he's explaining this, he's giving us really careful, clear, absolutely straightforward narrative, which is, very clear. There's no way, he's, as I said, crazy or mad. That's why all the time he comes back and says, now this is the point. You fancy me mad? Madmen know nothing. Again, look at these shorter sentences again and again and again. Very shorter sentences. And as I said, full of meanings. Now he comes back to the idea to say, do you think I am mad? No, no, no. Fancy. Notice he said fancy. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. Here he started, to give us details again, to say, yeah, he was absolutely sensible. And there's no way you can tell that he's crazy or he's mad. And he said, when you look at me, you'd see that I was not crazy. The way I went to it, and the way I started doing it, and the way I, processed the whole thing, it was absolutely quiet and well thought of and well planned and well rehearsed, absolutely well rehearsed. And then you say, well, so he's not really mad. So we are saying that his action is madness itself, because yeah, he was not mad, but the way he was doing it, the reason for him, the reason, for example, for killing this man is absolutely madness. And notice he said how he went on. Every time, let me put off this AC again, please. Sorry. Yeah, thank God we are having better weather now. Yeah. So notice how he, can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? My boys are...
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Very good. So notice how he, as I said, really the main point here, as I said, the easy way of telling us, the complete calmness, the complete seems to be, awareness, and the really, clear way of doing it. There's no sort of, hazy thing to do. He knew exactly, and, that's why you say, come on, you are guilty. Absolutely guilty. Later on he tells us why he did it, of course, again, in his own fashion. Notice, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. oh, so gently. And then when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. You know, he was peeping his head through the door. You know, remember, he's his neighbor. He is his neighbor, you know, next door neighbor. So every time he just slowly and quietly and absolutely stealthily, he opened the door and just peeped in to see his neighbor, whether he was asleep or not. And he used to do it all the time, he said, at nights, because he wants to kill him, you know, when he was, you know, I mean, the old man, to be unaware of it. And I think this is the wickedness about it. So that's what he said. He said, I moved slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? You know, he's asking us and he's laughing, isn't it? Ha! Ha! You think I'm mad? Look at what I'm doing. Can any madman do like this? I'm very wise. I'm not mad. Look at me how I'm behaving. So I really did it in a very nice way. No way people can think that I'm mad, you know? And that's why he's, again, as if mocking and, you know, laughing and telling us, he say, stop saying to me I'm mad. I'm not mad. Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked, meaning he was very, very, very cautiously opening the door so his neighbor won't wake up. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. He is terrible. He's comparing his neighbor's eye to a vulture's eye. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. You know, vulture, to have, you know, this big bird, you know, very terrible, ugly bird which eats other birds. You know, they are called birds of prey, really. Birds of prey. And he is comparing his eye, as he said, with film. He said film, an eye with a film, because people, you know, we human beings don't have film on our eyes. We have eyelids, right? I mean, like cover for our eyes. He said, this man has an eye and a lid and a film, meaning two covers, if you like. And, you know, he's saying this eye is a vulture eye. It's killing me. And notice he said, this light came straight into his eye, so I could see the eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Look at this. He repeated this action 7 days and nights. 7 times he wanted to make absolutely sure how he wants to kill him. Again, we say, what a terrible man you are. Again, you can see here, look at Edgar Allan Poe. Look at this amazing story, you know? I mean, it's really, I'm saying here, it's absolutely psychological. In the terms here, we are going deeper into the mind of a criminal man, really. Here, he's a criminal, because at the end of the day, he killed somebody and cut him, believe it or not. Cut him and dismembered him into pieces, and buried him in his own room. For God's sake. You see? And he said, I did this for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but this or his evil eye. So he said, I want to kill him when his eye is open. you know, this eye he wants to kill, because he said, I can't, because I don't want to kill the man, I want to kill his eye. You know, which is, you know, I think it's crazy to say that. And then he said, every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone. What a terrible hypocrite. What a terrible liar. You know, in the morning, at night, he peeps into his room, he wants to kill him. And during the day, he comes to him, he says, hey, hello, my friend. Hello, my neighbor. How are you today? Right? And he was acting in a very absolutely innocent way. He's coming to him every morning in a nice way, like his old friend. Right? And that's what he said to him, you know, courageously, calling him by name, you know, in a very nice way, hearty. Hearty way means absolutely loving way. And inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Yeah, look at this, boys and girls. What do you make of this when you say, you see? Hello? Hello? Boys, girls, are you? Hello?
We are here.
Yeah, maybe asleep or tired or having your dinners. Yeah, I don't blame you, but life is life. Yeah, I mean, what do you think here? What when he said you here, Khlas, since you have spoken?
Maybe he's trying to convincing us that he is right in what he is doing, and this is, I don't know.
Yeah, he's really talking to us now, and that's what I said. That's what I mean, really, therapy. The therapy, because when you psychological therapy, which means really when you want to make people forgive you and understand you, and you go on and telling them and retelling them and telling them, you know, trying to explain and send and say again and again and again, you know, to say, look, please understand, I'm trying to make you really to understand my position, to forgive me, and so on. So, you know, that's why when he's saying, you know, you, he really means us. And this is again really here we are being invited as real readers. We are being invited into the story to see, you know, to say here that this man really is a very nice man. He said, you know, to say that this man really is a nice man, that he would never suspect me. But as if to say, yeah, it was my fault. You know, again, this is the idea I'm saying here really all the time about being forgiven and being, you know, accepted. As I said, you know, this is the whole thing. I'm trying always to envision this like being in a trial, like standing in front of, you know, a jury in a court and trying you know, to defend yourself and to say, I'm innocent. Notice. To suspect that every night just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the eighth night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. Now he's telling us after 7 days and 7 nights of trying, now I decided on the eighth night, you know, to do the business of killing him. He said, I went really slowly and cautiously. Again, he said, usually cautious. A watch minute had moves more quickly than did mine. Look at this lovely metaphor here. He said, again, you can see that, you know, the ticking of the clock or the watch was even more, or if you like it, quicker than my movement, meaning I was very, very careful and very slow in moving, so I don't want him to hear me. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. Look at this word, sagacity, you know, as if to say I was very powerful, absolutely crazy and powerful, and I knew what I was doing. You know, at that night, I was absolutely sure that I am perfectly aware of everything. You know, sagacity means pure intelligence, absolute power of intelligence. Well, I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. You know, he said, I was over the moon of being happy that I'm doing this in a good way and he can't see me. To think there I was, opening the door little by little, and he got even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. You know, again, he's involving us, saying, do you think that when he moved in his bed, do you think I went back? He said, no. I was decided and I was strong. You know, that's why he said sagacity and, you know, being sagacious. He said, I will never, I'm decided, completely decided. He said, no, no, no. I did not budge or draw back. And notice his room, now he's, you know, explaining. His room was as black as pitch, with a thick darkness, for the shutters were closed fastened through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. You know, he was pushing the door, you know, absolutely 1 second after another, very, very steadily and slowly. He's terrible. He's never mad. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quiet still and said nothing. You know, he was frozen, meaning the way he said, when the old man said, "Who's there?" I stopped where I was, absolutely transfixed in the darkness. You know, I kept quiet still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle. خربيته, isn't it? Huh? Can you believe it? He stood for 1 hour, he said, without moving a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. So he was listening and he was waiting for the man to see if he gets up from his bed or whether he went back to his sleep. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening. And look at the word, he used the word hearkening. You know, I like this word, you know, to use it in this way, listening. Hearkening to the death watches, you know, in the wall. He is terrible. I'm saying that he's not mad in terms of awareness of what he's doing, but as I said, his whole action, why he did it and all this, it's ugly and it's absolutely terrible. Really, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, if I want to read all this with you today, but I want to jump more. But he told us how he went on and on and on, and then he told us, the next paragraph. If I read towards the middle of this page 36, because I stopped sharing because I was worried that I may lose the connection, and you have your books with you. Notice, but even yet, I moved down a little bit, right? Yeah. So notice here, the paragraphs here, the two paragraphs, smaller paragraph, the way he, yeah, let me read this one in the middle. He said, it was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. Astaghfirullah. He's saying, I was terrified by the looks of this eye and I hate it. He said, it made my deep inside of my bones, he said. Notice he said, the very marrow. Marrow means this liquid that you have within your bones, he said. Even that marrow, got frozen in my bones because I want to do it, in a perfect way. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person. So I directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot, means the eye. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? Now he's coming back to remind us. He said, wait a minute. Did I tell you that, the reason that you think I'm mad, do you think that this madness is really what I call over acuteness or over sensitivity? Again, he's asking us to say, please forgive me. You should know. Did I tell you that? Have I not told you that what you mistake for madness, maybe if you think I'm mad, you are mistaken. Notice, now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes with enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. So here he said the way he wanted to do it. Again, notice, even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. Again, look at this, look at that. He said, hellish tattoo of the heart increased. What tattoo? As if looking at the tattoo for, on the face or the hand or the body or whatever of this man. And again, to say the hellish, describing it with hell looking, it grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. Look at this, lovely, really amazing, again, elaboration. Quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say louder every moment. As if to say, hey, can you hear me? I'm saying, can you hear me? Louder and louder, as if he's shouting at us. Okay, come on, calm down. We know, we understand, we hear you, And, he said, do you mark me well? Do you mark me well? Can you hear me? Can you understand? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. You know, this is his only excuse, that he is oversensitive and he's nervous. Huh? Huh? Basmala, where are you? Almaha?
Yes, doctor.
Hello? Almaha? What do you say to him? What would you say to him?
Uh, maybe maybe try to change your mind and your thinking.
Yeah, you are very decent here. You are very decent to say this. I want a better word.
Like what, mister?
Like say to him, go to hell. Go to hell. Isn't it? Yeah, you can go to hell. Absolutely.
He deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, he's saying, he's telling us, do you hear me? I have told you, I'm nervous, so I am. والله وإذا nervous يا خيو بتيجي بتقتلنا كلنا يعني الله. You understand? Really, this is the idea. He said, he wants to make us, as I said, and now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder and louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound could be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once, only once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was done. Stone dead. حسبي الله عليك. Stone dead. ميت كالحجر. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was done. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Ha! Yeah. Now, his eye, I got rid of his eye. If still you think me mad, if still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. You see, this is it. I'm saying he's a terrible criminal. He's saying, if you think I'm mad that I killed him, you will see that I'm not mad how I cut him into pieces, right? Like cutting a chicken. Hasbi Allah alayk. Why? Hey, isn't it? Notice, the night waned and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the body. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, and look at this irony here, his meaning the dead man's eye, could have heard or could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been so wary for that a tub had caught all. He killed him in a tub, in the bathroom. You know, this huge bathroom, this bath, you know, the tub. So he cut him there in like a piece of chicken, and the blood, all the blood went into the sink. When I had made an end of these labors, notice these labors, you know, this work that I have done. I've done a lot of work, cutting and burying under the, you know, the planks of because the bedroom, his bedroom is made of, it's made of wood. So he took 2-3 pieces of wood, you know, buried him, and then replaced the woods of in the room, because sometimes, you know, people in the West, in Britain, they use wood for the floor, because sometimes because of the I think, you know, to make absolutely for the cold or for the hot or for the weather kind of thing, which is really, it's used like this in so many places in the world. I think I've seen this in Britain myself many times, that they use wood for the flooring. So you can see, notice here what he's, you know, he's completely aware of all this. So he buried him, he said, and then he said, notice, still dark at midnight, as the bell, sorry, when I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, and still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, then came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart. For what had I now to fear? You see, again, notice, as I'm saying to you, really, the reason I'm reading all this for you, really, I want you to see exactly how much he's talking to us. Really, to us, real people. To say, hey, please forgive me. When you read this, try to understand me. Try to forgive me that I did it, because I was extremely, absolutely extremely oversensitive. And for us, I think we all would explain it, and I would explain it, you would explain it. Definitely, we will all explain it as pure, absolute pure madness and criminality. Really criminality. Absolutely, you know, savagery. And how can you kill somebody and cut him into pieces for nothing? You know, I don't want to get all this ideological or political and all this, you know, because we have in society today, we have many things in many parts of the world where we have had, or maybe still have, I don't know, you know, still people, you know, dismembering each other. For God's sake, why? You know, why? You know? And really, this is the idea that this story is very touchy and absolutely, you know, is to some extent ideological. You know, we can see it as ideological in terms of how society is so horrible and full of people who are hypocrites, who are criminals, who are hiding behind. But you see, again, this shows that the law, at the end of the day, criminals will never be able to run away. They will be caught. They will be caught, and they will be taken to prison. and they will pay for their crimes. We readers will never forgive him. I would never forgive him. I will never forgive him. And I hope that people, when we are reading all this story, we will never forgive him. This is unbelievable, to kill someone, just like that. Even if you had reasons, you are not given the real law. As we say, you are not ordained from God or heaven. You are not allowed, you are not given decrees to kill people. We are created by God, and only God can take our lives. And really, this is the idea. I think here we can, think about it here in so many ways. Again, notice here, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect, suavity. Notice the word suave in English, really, this is a French word. Originally, suave is a French word, means, high class, poshy kind of people, very rich people. They are officers from the police. Notice, perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and the officers had been deputed to search the premises. Notice here the narrator here, this first person narrator, this crazy man, he's telling us what they said to him. They did not say to us anything. He is repeating everything. As I said, he's telling us and retelling us and retelling us, year after year, year after year, year after year, how this story really affected his life. And that's why he's telling that the police told him that they heard something funny, and that's why they came, because they were sent by the station, the police station, to check what's going on. And he's telling us again, I smiled. For what had I to fear? Again, he's telling us, I smiled and I was careless. I bade the gentleman welcome. I said, oh, you are welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. He said, I sometimes give certain sounds or funny voices when I'm asleep. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I made them search well. I led them at length to his chamber, to his room. I showed them his treasures, secure and disturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I thought I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. I think this is the curse, and I think this is his mistake. And I think this is what we say, there's no perfect crime. He was so cocky, so sure of himself, so audacious, so insolent, so horrible, so arrogant, so proud of his action. So he brought chairs into the same room and he made the people sit. And that was his mistake. And that's why we say there's no complete crime. It was Allan, really. It was the curse upon his soul, which made him do this. And then through this, the heart of the dead man kept beating according to him. But really, the heart of the man was not beating. The beat was in his crazy mind, in his really terrible mind. Again, it is the curse, la'natul Rabb alayh, because he did something wrong and he was exposed immediately. And that's why we say here really the idea that God will take the, if you like, the responsibility for, if you can't do something, if you can't, take revenge on somebody who did you wrong, God will one day, as we say, will sentence those people who did you wrong. I think sometimes we say this, sometimes we say, God will take my revenge, and that's here, he said here, notice, the officers were satisfied, my manner had convinced them, I was singularly at ease, I was very easy. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted to familiar things. But ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted, and here again, we see him really very, very, here we see him, getting mad. No doubt I now grew very pale, he said, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased. And what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, which such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. He repeated the same image, the same image and the same metaphor, comparing the heart of the man to a clock being smothered in a cloth or in a piece of, or whatever, because remember, he killed him through the quilt, the bed or the quilt, he said. And, he's comparing the ticking of the clock, the ticking of the clock and the sound, the buried sound of the clock, to the buried beating of the heart of the old man. And of course, we know that the beating of the man, this beating is only in his mind. The man is dead and the heart is not beating. And that's why here the story is, as I said, the telltale heart, right? And notice here, I gasped for breath, yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor, to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited in fury by the observations of the men. Notice, as I say here, really the terrible, absolute psychological, horrible things that he's feeling now. He's absolutely mad now. He wants them, remember, he wants them to go away because he's worried, absolutely now worried sick that they will know that he had killed him. And the whole thing, as I said, it was in his mind. Notice, why would they not be gone? He's asking all the time, asking this question. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards. But the noise arose over all and continuously increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. Again, he's repeating the same thing, grew louder, louder, louder. And still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. These men, by the way, they have heard nothing, by the way. They have heard nothing. It was only in his mind. But he was looking at him and they were laughing at him, why he's behaving like this. you know. And he said, they were smiled. Was it possible they heard him? They heard not? Almighty God, Ya Rabb al-Alameen, Ya Rabb al-Samawat. Huh? Have they heard it? You know, he's asking here, Almighty God. Oh, no, no. They heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. Ah, this is it. That's what I'm saying, repeating the story. You notice he said, I thought and I think now. I'm still thinking. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was better, was more tolerable than now. Than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now again, hark, louder, 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 louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more, meaning stop acting. I admit the deed. Turn up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. Allah la yarhamak ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right? Yeah. What do you think? Hello? Yeah. Yeah, I like your comments here, some of you. Yeah, Fayyad saying yes. Yeah, yeah, it is his own heart, absolutely. So really this story is, I think, is very powerful. And you can elaborate and elaborate about, you know, the effect of psychology and this absolute therapy. The whole story is being a re-narration. It's a therapeutic. It's the way to cure this man through telling and retelling and retelling and retelling the story. This man has a psychological disease. He is sick. He is a criminal. He is... This writer is insanely good. Oh, yeah. Okay, Hafsa, yes, I agree with you. Absolutely, yeah. Because, you know, to some extent, at some point, really, Edgar Allan Poe himself had some streaks of madness himself, in a way, but not exactly, because he was very, very intelligent, really intelligent. And that's why really here, you know, you can see the many ways of interpretation of the story. If you can Google this short story in the net, you'll find many references and many, you know, explanations and, you know, psychological explanations, political explanations, social explanations, you know, subjective explanations, feministic explanations, really cultural explanations, everything. Absolutely fantastic story in my view. And that's why I think, you know, I give it to you here, ladies and gentlemen, as this terrible, strong example of, you know, our short stories we have had here. And maybe you can ask me about the climax. Well, the climax is the end, really. The climax here in this short story is the end. At the end, when he couldn't, you know, when he finally broke down, when completely the last, if you like, the last sentence, absolutely, because he couldn't stand it anymore, right? So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have any question, then that's it.